Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out for the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a ton of huge news to share with all of you today. Today's date is June 24th, 2025, and it's Tuesday. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. We've got a lot of news to get into in today's update, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. We have a major report here on your screen that we're going to go over as the Russians launched a massive missile attack onto Ukraine's Dnipro region. So take a look at your screen. Russia launches major missile attack on Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. Russian forces launched missile strikes on the Ukrainian cities of Dnipro and Samar in the Dnipropetrovsk region earlier today. More than 160 people have been reported injured so far. Yeah, this was a major attack. At least 4 ballistic missiles were fired, but these were very heavy warheads. The videos coming out showing massive explosions after these strikes taking place. This is actually a picture of a train that was packed full of Ukrainian civilians. Lots of women and children aboard this train as we had a detonation of one of these missiles striking very close to this train. You can see a lot of these windows being blown out here as well. Horrible news today. Lots of schools being damaged, civilian infrastructure destroyed in these two major cities of Dnipro and Samar. So we'll talk more about that. I'll give you guys more information here in just a minute. Also, up in the Sumy Oblast in the northeastern side of Ukraine, we have reports that strikes over there as well. I think drones were attacking that area. We have emergency crews trying to put out fires over there. And also good news coming out from Ukraine is Ukraine's military is starting to push the Russians out of the Sumy Oblast on the northern side of that region close to the border of Russia. Because we were hearing for weeks that the Russians were advancing in the Sumy Oblast. And now I've got 2 major reports today that shows the Ukrainians are pushing them back. So that's very good news to see over there. And then also we have some statements coming out from Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine today. He had an interview with Sky News at the NATO summit, and we do have that going on as well today, the NATO summit at The Hague. So we have lots of reports coming out from there as well, okay? And Zelenskyy has arrived at the NATO summit today. So let's go ahead and jump right in this. Lots of news to cover. I want to get into this as quick as possible and try to go over all these reports because as you can see here, lots of news to cover with all these tabs. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, president of Ukraine, right now in the Dnipro region, assistance is being provided to everyone affected by the Russian ballistic missile strike. As of now, over 160 people have been reported injured. Tragically, 11 people have been killed. The rubble is still being cleared, so unfortunately, the death toll may rise. My condolences to all the families and loved ones. This strike hit numerous civilian infrastructure, homes, schools, and even a regular passenger train. There were more than 500 passengers on board. 5 train cars were destroyed. There were no fatalities. All the injured have received medical assistance. It was another Russian strike on life. Russia cannot produce ballistic missiles without components from other countries. Russia cannot manufacture hundreds of other types of weapons without the parts, equipment, and expertise that this deranged regime in Moscow does not possess on its own. This is why it is important, so important to minimize the schemes that connect Russia with its accomplices. There must also be a significant strengthening of sanctions against Russia. We know exactly what we are fighting for, and it is the protection of life. Russia knows exactly why it continues this war. It is a complete disregard for life and an attempt to cleanse our land of people. This is not a fight where it is hard to choose a side. Standing with Ukraine means defending life. I am grateful to everyone who is helping right now, these very days. We are doing everything to secure even more support for our people, for our state. Yeah, he's talking about this whole NATO summit. There's lots of support coming out today that I'm hearing, so that's very good news. Take a look at this video, guys. This is damage to this train after this ballistic missile struck very close by.
Осколками ранило пасажира, пошкоджений локомотив. Осколками.
All right, so that's very good news that we did not have any fatalities on this train, and it looks like majority of the people that were killed were in other strikes. As I know for sure, at least 4 ballistic missiles were fired into the Dnipropetrovsk region. You see lots of damage here to this train. Very unfortunate, and again, this thing was packed with lots of people, 500 aboard. Now max 25, there are dead and injured in Dnipro after a Russian attack. Dormitory gymnasium, administrative building, and a train were damaged. Okay, you see more civilian infrastructure being targeted here. Look at all these windows blown out up close here on this train as well, just like we were able to see earlier. And other reports from Max 25, there were no casualties among passengers and railway workers on the Odessa Zaporizhzhia train near which the missile hit. So look at this, guys. Just lots of children. I mean, I feel like it's majority children right here and women that were aboard this train after this missile struck very close to it. You can see, not sure if this is a train station or what this is here, but this was blown out as well. I'm not sure if this was the strike today that knocked out that building just behind it. But it looks like it was attacked once before, at least in the past, because you can see the skeletal structure of that building in the back, and it definitely looks like it was blown up at some point. We can see a fire over here just on the other side of that building. That's possibly where that missile struck. So very horrifying news coming out today. Now, Bliskovka, 14 schools and kindergartens, as well as a hospital and polyclinic, were damaged in Dnipro, Mayor Boris Filatov said. According to the mayor, significant damage was also recorded in the private sector. One death has been reported. Okay, so you can see here 14 schools. Isn't that crazy that were destroyed overnight or damaged in the city of Dnipro? Okay, according to the mayor. This was just a video here showing this train with the windows that were damaged and blown out. We've seen video like this before. Just wanted to share some of that information there with you as well. Now for Ukrainian review, moment of ballistic missile strike near the Odessa-Dnipro train. There are injured passengers, according to local media. Here's a video 7 seconds long. Take a look.
Это пиздец. Это пиздец.
All right, look at that mushroom cloud there. I wouldn't be surprised. It's probably an Iskander ballistic missile that was fired. Very heavy warhead on this missile that struck right next to that train and caused all that damage and injuries to all those passengers aboard. Now for Bliskovka, Russians hit the Dnipro and the city of Samar. There are dead and injured according to RMA. Civilian infrastructure in Dnipro was damaged. In particular, a dormitory, gymnasium, administrative building, a train was damaged as passengers were injured. There's just a picture coming out from that area also showing people's windows that were blown out due to the explosions from these ballistic missiles incoming to this area. So there was lots of people's homes that were damaged as well, clearly. Now from Anton Gerashenko, reportedly this is a daycare in Dnipro after a Russian missile attack. So yes, we did have reports that a daycare, at least one of them was damaged. And here's the effects of what appears to be the inside of it as this daycare was destroyed. Okay, all these windows completely blown out here from the blast of these ballistic missiles incoming. Very sad to see. Now from Max 25, loud explosions were heard in Dnipro. Russia's used 4 Iskander-M missiles. Smoke rises above the strike sites. There is information about the destruction of residential areas. Here's another video that somebody's able to capture right there. You can see that's ballistic missile incoming and striking. Take a look at this.
Ебать, только что прилетело. Фух. Я, конечно, болван, что сейчас это все снимаю. Только что тупо пламя вверх взлетело. Ебать, только что
All right, now I haven't been able to confirm whether these strikes were on any like energy infrastructure or anything like that. That looks like that might be a smokestack right there, so I'm not sure what the Russians were targeting, but for sure we know that lots of civilian infrastructure was hit and damaged due to these strikes. So obviously these attacks were taking place right here in the middle of the town. You can see this person's inside their home, and it looks like they may have even repaired this window possibly or door from a previous strike. And yeah, we had that explosion just right there. Okay, so very crazy video. Now for Bliskovka, the state emergency service showed the consequences of the Russian attack on one of the settlements of the Vergnia Sroyovatska, if I'm saying that right, sorry guys, community in Sumy region. 3 people were killed, including a child. Another 6 were injured. About 15 buildings were burning simultaneously on the territory of 6 private households. The fires have been extinguished. So very sad to hear. Also coming out from the Sumy Oblast, we did have some people being killed, and unfortunately a child losing their life as well due to strikes over here. Probably drones that were attacking this area. You can see more homes once again being destroyed from the Russians, and this is something we typically see pretty much every day coming out from Ukraine, and Sumy Oblast is repetitively attacked every single week. Horrible news. Now raging 545, it is being reported that Ukrainian forces have regained control of previous lost positions west of Kendrivka on the border region of Sumy. Credit to the map maker. So yeah, reports here that we have the city of Kondrivka, which would have been right here. So this is on the very western side of the attack from the Russians. So we know the Russians are pushing in on the northern side. So on the western side of their offensive, that's where the Ukrainians reportedly are starting to push back now. And we heard about this. I believe this is the city of Andriivka. We heard about this probably 3 to 4 days ago, roughly, that the Ukrainians had taken that city back over, or settlement, and they're now starting to push over here on the west side as well. So they really are containing this attack from the Russians right now. All right, now from Bandera Fella, Ukrainian forces pushed Russians out of multiple forest areas east of Unikivka, Sumy region. The counterattack continues. Okay, so we've got another map here to show you, and Unikivka is going to be this city right here, which is a major transport city that the Ukrainians were using. They were building up their forces here, and then they would use this road that would lead into the Kursk Oblast, okay, which would be right over the border from the Sumy Oblast right here. And just to the east of Unikivka, the Ukrainians are starting to push them out as well, okay? So they're trying to regain control of Unikivka. It looks like the Russians got control about maybe 30% of it right now. We've been hearing that the Russians are trying to take control of that city, but Ukraine is still, for the most part, controlling it. You can see this area is actually a gray zone right now, as lots of heavy fighting is taking place in that area. So now moving on to another update. Max 25, when asked by Sky News journalists whether Ukraine will lose the war, Zelenskyy replied, "No, I don't think so. The situation is not easy, but not like in the first days of the large-scale invasion. Putin is not doing so well on the battlefield." Yeah, and I'd have to agree with that for the most part. I mean, the Russians are gaining some territory here and there, but then the Ukrainians push back and they regain territory as well. So it's been, for the most part, a pretty solid deadlock for like about a year now since I've been reporting this. The Russians are not moving nearly as quickly as they were towards back like the middle of last year, I'd say. So yeah, I'd have to agree with Zelenskyy here, but he's stating that he doesn't think that Ukraine will ever lose the war. You guys can let me know what you think. Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Now for Military News UA, Zelenskyy, I may not be the best, but I'm the most experienced to lead Ukraine through this war. Also in an interview with Sky News, the president stated that we will not accept any ultimatums from the Russian Federation, and that he believes that Ukraine will not become a bargaining chip in negotiations between major powers. Okay, so more statements coming out from Zelenskyy today. Here's a picture of him in this interview with Sky News. So yeah, and I don't know if maybe some sort of statement got brought up asking him, do you think that anybody else needs to take over your role as leading Ukraine as president? He believes that he's the best, even though he may not be the best for Ukraine. He believes he's the most experienced to lead Ukraine to victory in this war. So let me know what you think on that too. Now, Max 25, Zelenskyy, I'm not ready to betray the people. There's a war going on, and my great duty is to go through this war together with my country. If my people believe that they need another leader, I simply have no right to stay. Yes, I am tired because the country is at war. That's something that I've been noticing with Zelenskyy recently, is he does look very tired. I mean, you just imagine these nightly strikes, and he's just going around all over the place. He's constantly traveling somewhere, trying to get some sort of support from another country. To get help and to fund this war. So, I mean, he works very hard, and I've said this before, I haven't said it in a while, but Zelensky's got to be one of the hardest working presidents I've ever seen. He's just all over the place, trying to do whatever he can to save his country. So kudos to him and for working so hard, and I think he's right to be able to say, yeah, yes, I'm tired, and I'm sure he'd love to step down and relax for a moment, but at the same time, his country's at war, and he's got to do what he can to save his country from this attack from Russia. Now, Max 25, Zelenskyy was not invited to the NATO leaders' session in The Hague due to unstable relations with Trump, according to Reuters. Zelenskyy will be content with attending the pre-summit dinner this evening. The summit agenda is formed around Trump's key initiatives, in particular, the demand to increase defense spending by member countries. The conflict between Iran and Israel will also be considered separately at the summit. So here's a report today from Reuters. Hague NATO summit aims to focus on Trump's spending goal, but Iran looms large. All right, so yeah, apparently Zelensky's not going to be at the actual NATO leaders session in The Hague. He won't be attending that, most likely because of Trump, and Trump might be saying something, and they don't want to create issues or have another major fight between Zelenskyy and Trump again. But he will be attending a pre-summit dinner, and I do have some information as well here to show you. Max 25, a mini-summit will be organized for Zelenskyy at the NATO summit with participation of the leaders of 5 states, France, Germany, Poland, Italy, UK, and as well as NATO Secretary General That'd be Mark Rutte, according to Radio Liberty. So there will be like a mini summit being held for Zelenskyy, and I think I have a statement from him today as he did bring some news to NATO as he was speaking at that summit. Now, from next, Rutte meets with Zelenskyy at NATO summit in The Hague. Our message is clear: NATO stands with Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy thanked allies for the invitation and called on NATO to stay the course set at last year's Washington summit. He also stressed that Ukraine urgently needs stronger air defense, expanded joint weapons production, and continued military aid. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in turn said that allies must provide Ukraine with everything it needs, adding that partners have already committed over 35 billion euros, not dollars, in support. So this was Zelenskyy and Mark Rutte meeting today and carrying out a nice, generous hug. As we have Zelenskyy showing up at this summit, and according to Mark Rutte, they're still stating that NATO stands with Ukraine and supports them and backs them 100%. So still showing support for Ukraine, which is good to see out of NATO. Now from Anton Gerashenko, President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, he stated today, while President Zelenskyy has already agreed to an unconditional ceasefire, Russia not only doesn't agree, but even is increasing the intensity of its aggression against Ukraine. From our part, we will continue to give full support to Ukraine and continue to put pressure on Russia through sanctions, and the 18th package of sanctions is underway. Finally, we're looking forward to our common future with Ukraine as a full member of the European Union. Thankful to EU for standing with Ukraine. Okay, this was a statement from European Council, or President of the European Council, Antonio Costa. This was him right here speaking with Zelenskyy today. I'm not going to show the clip because this is basically what he said here. I don't want to double up on the information with you guys, but just showing more support for Ukraine, saying that the EU will continue to support Ukraine, and also they look forward to having Ukraine as a full member in the European Union. So very good to see out of the President of the European Council. Now, from next, Trump agrees to meet Zelenskyy at NATO summit. The problem is, Trump is in no mood for diplomacy. He's furious, especially with those who, in his view, are sabotaging his peace plans, and Zelenskyy might be walking straight into that room. Yeah, so this was a video actually coming out from Fox News today. This was Trump right here. He was speaking to reporters, and he was very upset with what's going on over there in the Middle East because there was a ceasefire that was in effect. And then all of a sudden, apparently the IRGC in Iran fired a missile over to Israel. Israel said that the ceasefire was violated. They were going to respond to it. Then they went and dropped a bunch of bombs over there. Trump was trying to stop them from doing that, and they basically refused, dropped their payloads into Iran. And then Trump came out basically dropping the F-bomb, and he said that both those leaders over there in Israel and Iran don't know what the F they're doing, is kind of what he was saying. So he was showing that he was very, very upset. You could see that he was very irate. So, maybe there might be too many tensions if we see Zelenskyy and Trump meeting at the NATO summit, right? Because of what's going on over there with Ukraine and Russia. He wants that war over with, and he wanted it over with well over a month ago, okay? So looks like they're trying to defuse the situation as much as possible, but allow Zelenskyy to attend. Now for military news UA, Russia's planning new military operations on NATO territory. Our intelligence confirms it. Zelenskyy stated this at the NATO summit. The president also added that Russia rejects all peace proposals, including those coming from the United States. Putin thinks only about war. Yeah, this was Zelenskyy right here. Unfortunately, it's not in English. It's actually like translated over to Ukrainian. So I'm not going to play it just because it's not showing English or any subtitles or anything here, but that was him speaking and basically stating once again that they've got intelligence that Russia's planning new military operations onto NATO, that they could possibly attack at some point in the future or carry out some sort of sabotage, who knows what. This is something that Zelenskyy has been warning about for several weeks now. Now from Anton Gerashenko, Norway will help Ukraine with development and production of surface drones. Thankful to the people and government of Norway for standing with Ukraine. Kongsberg Defense and Aerospace has signed an agreement with Ukrainian partner for the drones to be developed and produced in Ukraine using Norwegian technology and expertise, according to Norway Defense Minister Tore O. Sandvik. Okay, so very big news coming out of Norway today. They announced a major aid package for Ukraine to help them develop surface drones. Okay, so very good news. That means more help for Ukraine coming out of Norway. And Norway is a major supporter of Ukraine. They've given so much aid to them And very good to see this. Okay, so they're going to be teaming up with Ukraine to actually build these things directly inside of their country using Norwegian technology and expertise, according to the defense minister today. Now from Bliskovka, Ukraine and Great Britain are launching joint production of drones, Defense Minister Rustem Umerov said. As part of the mega project, the British side will finance the purchase of Ukrainian drones for 3 years, which will be produced in Britain. While the war is ongoing, all production will go to the defense forces. After that, the drones will be distributed between the two countries. Okay, so another big report as well. Ukraine and also the UK, okay, launching joint production of drones. So that's huge as well. We know that the UK has already given, I think, somewhere around 100,000 drones, or they're preparing to prepare all these and send them over to Ukraine. That was reported like not even a month ago, maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. And now they're going to be launching joint production, allowing Ukraine to produce more drones. And this is actually something that Zelenskyy stated, I believe, also at the NATO summit, that they have the capacity to produce up to 8 million drones per year, but they lack funding. Okay, so even if they're maybe not getting the funding, at least they're getting help from the UK here, launching joint production to produce these for Ukraine. So that's good. Now, Anton Gershenko, Casualties, says the EU has secured 80% of 2 million ammunition rounds pledged to Ukraine. Okay, I believe these are most likely 155 millimeter artillery shells. I believe that's what they're talking about here. While all eyes are on what is happening in Iran and the Middle East, there are people dying in Kiev because Russia keeps bombing Ukraine every single day. So we have to keep up the pressure on Russia. That's why we are pushing for the 18th package of sanctions. Also, we have to give the military support to Ukraine. I'm happy to tell you that 80% of the ammunition initiative has already been pledged, but of course we have to do more to have this year, the 2 million rounds initiative fulfilled, Kaja Kallis said. Okay, so they've been able to get about 80% of that 2 million, which is a good amount that the EU is committed to providing ammunition rounds for Ukraine. Again, I believe these are artillery shells that they're talking about here. This was the video when she was speaking. It's over a minute long, so I'm not going to show it. This is basically what she stated here in this video again, talking about these ammunition rounds that have been pledged to Ukraine, and they're working on that 18th package of sanctions right now that I heard should be very damaging to Russia's economy. Now from next, I need help with you. Trump responds to Putin's offer to mediate. I'd like to see a deal with Russia, Donald Trump said aboard the plane heading to the NATO summit in the Netherlands. He recalled a recent phone call with Vladimir Putin during which the Russian leader asked if he could help with the U.S. With Iran. Trump's response, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. So yeah, that was actually reported a few days ago. As these strikes were ongoing between Israel and Iran, they were attacking each other for like well over a week, right? And at some point, Putin had called Trump and said, hey, we can help mediate in this situation over here. And Trump told him, no, you go worry about your own war over there, end your war. I'll worry about what's happening on in the Middle East right now, okay? So I thought that was interesting and kind of funny at the same time, the way he responded to Vladimir Putin. And apparently, yeah, Trump calling Putin during this trip to the NATO summit at The Hague, and he was telling him that he'd like to see a deal with Russia. He wants this war to come to an end. So we'll see what happens here, but it looks like Trump's still trying to pressure Putin into agreeing to some sort of settlement. Now from next, Russia could attack NATO and launch missiles at European cities. Bloomberg modeled a worst-case scenario. War would likely start with an attack on the Baltics. That's a scenario modeled by Bloomberg analysts. Putin's pretext could be anything: a staged incident, provocation, or hybrid operation. For example, Russian troops could block a Moscow-Kaliningrad train in Lithuania, then protect passengers by sending in forces. Russia might also strike Estonia and Latvia, deploy its fleet in the Baltic Sea, or cut off the Suwalki Gap, the key land link between the Baltics and Poland. If NATO responds with military aid, Russia would retaliate by launching missiles at Germany, Poland, Sweden, and Finland, with no distinction between military targets and civilian cities. Will the U.S. help? Bloomberg is skeptical. Trump may stall, posting vague calls on Truth Social to talk to Vladimir instead of taking action. All this is hypothetical for now, but the fact that Russia is reinforcing its military bases near Europe is no theory. That's already happening. So yeah, apparently Bloomberg kind of outlining some possible scenarios that could unfold here if Russia were to attack NATO. So you can see they might launch some missiles over here into some of the countries that are located very close to Russia's border. They could launch like a land attack here into Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. We've seen that. Maybe utilize their ships and their fleet here in the Baltic Sea to attack the backside. Maybe go after the Suwalki corridor here that separates Poland from the Baltic nations here also. So that's a possible scenario. And then, just really so many different things could be taking place here. And it looks like NATO is preparing for that. We've been hearing about this for a while. And we actually have a new report that I can show you right here, actually, from next. NATO allies plan to lay mines along Russian border. A new Iron Curtain rises. According to the Telegraph, these countries are Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. All of them have announced plans to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention, which bans the use of anti-personnel mines. So yes, we have heard about this already. I think Finland was the most recent country to withdraw from the Ottawa Convention. That would allow them to place mines on their border. So it looks like they're going to be creating a full piece of strip here of landmines starting from Poland all the way up to Finland. And there's a little bit of land from Norway, I guess, and Norway would have to withdraw from that Ottawa Treaty as well if they wanted to place landmines on their border to complete it all the way up to the Arctics over here. But yeah, they want to start placing mines all over the place here, even around Kaliningrad, to protect themselves if the Russians ever try to attack. And this is something we've been reporting on for weeks now, that the Baltic nations, Poland, and Finland were preparing to mine their borders as they're preparing for a major attack from Russia in the future, and hopefully that never happens. Now, from NOAA reports, Russia's now using a new Iranian Shahed 136 variant in Ukraine, marked MS. It's a step up from older models with upgraded satellite navigation and a camera connected to an NVIDIA Jetson module for visual tracking, target tracking. The engine and warhead appear unchanged. There are signs Iran is sending these fully assembled drones to Russia in exchange for other weapons. So this is another type of drone that's being found here now, a Shahed 136 variant. Okay, and it's a major step up from other models apparently here. Again, upgraded satellite navigation, camera connected to an NVIDIA Jetson module for visual target tracking. So it's going to make it much easier to hit their targets with these things. We've been seeing a lot of major improvements with Russia's drones. They're trying to become more innovative so that way they can be more effective with these strikes. They've been changing their tactics as well on how they use these. We've been hearing so much coming out from this, the drone production inside of Russia. We've also been hearing that they're producing more of these now. We could be definitely seeing more strikes with drones in the future, potentially hundreds more than we're seeing now. So not good news coming out here from Russia. Now, Ukrainian Review, American defense companies are seeking to benefit from the militarization of Europe caused by the war in Ukraine and pressure from Washington, according to Financial Times. In particular, Boeing said that it expects to transfer to Europe the experience of cooperation with Australia on the Ghost Bat drone, and Lockheed and Raytheon have already launched joint production lines, in particular the production of missiles with Rheinmetall and the production of Patriot systems through a joint venture with the European MBDA. Meanwhile, talks are intensifying in the EU about the need to reduce dependence on American technology and U.S. export restrictions. Yeah, so that's a tough situation here, right? American defense companies want to take advantage of Europe's rearmament right now, but the EU is also working towards trying to get off reliance on U.S. defense manufacturers as well, because they're concerned about export restrictions because Trump's been trying to put all these tariffs onto the EU, and then also the lack of reliance on the U.S. that the U.S. could just cut off aid at some point. They want to start being more independent on their own inside of Europe. So all of this is good that the U.S. wants to get involved. At least defense manufacturers want to get involved with supplying weapons for Europe. Europe at the same time is saying, well, we got to start being on our own anyway. So that's kind of what Financial Times was reporting today. Now for military news UA, thanks to the experience of Ukrainian air defense, the effectiveness of intercepting targets by Patriot SAM complexes has significantly increased. And this actually lines up really well with some of the reports we've been showing for probably about maybe 3 weeks now, that Ukraine is able to shoot down sometimes up to 90-95% of the incoming targets into their territory, whether it be drones or missiles. and especially a major significant increase in missiles that we've been seeing shot down as well. If Russia will shoot like 20 or 40 at a time, a lot of times Ukraine will shoot down a good majority of those as well, like 80-90% also. So that really shows that Ukraine's experience with these Patriot missile systems is increasing. They're getting more effective at using these to shoot down incoming targets. So very good news out of Ukraine. Now, Bliskovka, air defense forces neutralized 78 out of 97 Russian UAVs. 63 were shot down by firepower, 15 were locally lost, suppressed by electronic warfare. Enemy strike UAVs were recorded in 6 locations. Okay, so 97 drones, not an extreme amount that we have been seeing, sometimes 200-300 or more per night. But still, 97 drones is a lot, guys. Almost 100 drones going into Ukraine. And I remember just 6 months ago, this was almost unheard of. We'd usually only see 30 to 50 at some point, and this number is really increasing a lot. And even Volodymyr Zelenskyy has said that some people might think 100 drones is not a lot, but at the beginning when drones were just starting to be used, they wouldn't see nearly as many of these. Now 100 is like a daily thing. 100 is on the low side compared to what it used to be, and the high end might be 300 to 500, for example. So yeah, good news here. They were able to shoot down 63, 15 lost by electronic warfare. So you can see here 78 out of 97. So, as I'm stating, we're able to see the Ukrainians get very effective at bringing down a lot of these incoming targets to their nation. So that's very good. Now, Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of June 24th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update of the day, Russia's losses as of June 24th, 1,200 troops, 7 AFVs, 100 vehicles and fuel tanks, 1 tank, 21 artillery systems, 198 UAVs, 1 MLRS, and 12 cruise missiles. Okay, so still about the same, guys. Very low numbers here across the board, especially AFVs and tanks. Only 1 tank here and 7 AFVs over the last 24 hours. Vehicles and fuel tanks about average. Troop numbers up a tiny bit higher. We've been seeing more around maybe 950 to 1,000. So now up to about 1,200 here over the last day, and 21 artillery systems probably about average as well. So still very low numbers. And it's just so interesting to me because the Russians are supposedly attacking all kinds right now, right? We're hearing that the Russians are launching more attacks than they ever were before. And I'm very confused still why we're not seeing massive numbers here and depletion of military equipment on the Russian side. You would think we're going to be seeing so much of that. So is it the fact that Russia's lacking so much military equipment to begin with? Are they really not launching as many attacks or ground assaults? What's going on here? But it's very strange to me. I expect these numbers to really be jumping up, and if anything, they're just flatlining here and not really going anywhere. But regardless, yeah, major news coming out today from this war. Just wanted to share some of the horrific events that took place inside of Ukraine today. I know it can be a little depressing sometimes, but I think it's important that everybody knows what's going on over here and that the Ukrainian people are not forgotten about as they're repeatedly attacked every single day from Russian ballistic missiles and drones. Okay, so I want to thank you so much for tuning in for this update. Again, on today's date, June 24th, 2025 on Tuesday. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day today. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.